Welcome to Speak English with me.
Improve your vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation with our engaging lessons.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Speak English with me. I'm Sam.
And I'm Emma. We're really happy you're here because today's topic is one of those little English expressions that seems so simple, but it can completely change the feeling of a conversation.
Before we jump in, if our podcast helps you sound more natural and feel more confident in English, don't forget to subscribe and join us every week. We love having you here, and we love hearing how you're using these expressions in your own conversations.
Today we're talking about 3 small words, to be honest. You hear them in movies, TV shows, interviews, podcasts, and everyday conversations. Native speakers say them all the time. But here's something interesting. They aren't always introducing some huge truth or dramatic confession.
That's what surprises many learners. They think if someone says, to be honest, then something shocking is about to happen.
I used to think that too. Then I noticed my friends saying things like, to be honest, I'm kind of tired. Or, to be honest, I don't really want pizza tonight. Nothing dramatic. They were just sharing a genuine opinion.
And that's one of the biggest differences between learning English from a textbook and listening to real people. A textbook might tell you that to be honest means I'm going to tell the truth. That's not wrong, but it's only part of the picture.
Because native speakers usually aren't saying, I've been lying until this moment.
Exactly. Well, I almost used a word we're trying not to overuse.
Nice catch. Let me try that again. They're usually creating a softer bridge into what they really think or really feel. Sometimes they're nervous. Sometimes they're trying to avoid hurting someone's feelings. Sometimes they're admitting something small that feels a little embarrassing.
Imagine your friend asks, did you enjoy the movie?
You could simply say no.
You could, but that sounds a bit cold.
So instead, many native speakers would say, to be honest, it wasn't really my kind of movie.
Hear the difference? The opinion hasn't changed. You're still saying you didn't enjoy it, but the sentence feels warmer. It gives the other person a moment to prepare for an opinion that might be different from theirs.
That's something English does quite often. We don't only communicate information, we communicate emotion. We communicate attitude. We communicate how comfortable or uncomfortable we feel while saying something.
I remember having dinner with a group of friends a few years ago. Everyone ordered spicy food except me. When the waiter came over, I smiled and said, to be honest, I can't handle spicy food at all.
Let me guess, nobody laughed?
Not at all. One friend smiled and said, really? I would have never guessed. Then we started talking about foods we couldn't eat. The conversation became fun because I admitted something personal, even though it wasn't a big secret.
That's such a good example. You weren't revealing a life-changing fact. You were simply opening the door to a more genuine conversation.
And that's why I think learners sometimes miss the emotional side of this phrase. They focus so much on translating the words that they forget to notice how people are using them.
If you're listening today, here's something I'd love you to do. Don't only listen to the words, listen to the feeling behind them. Ask yourself, why did the speaker choose to be honest right there? You'll start hearing patterns that grammar books rarely explain.
And once you notice those patterns, you'll begin sounding much more natural yourself because you're no longer copying words, you're understanding the emotion that comes with them.
You know, Emma, there's another reason I wanted to record this episode. I hear English learners use to be honest in ways that sound grammatically correct, but emotionally unusual.
Oh, I know what you mean. Sometimes they'll say it before almost every opinion. They'll say, to be honest, I like coffee. To be honest, I went to work yesterday. To be honest, it's raining. After a while, it starts to sound like they're reading from a script instead of speaking naturally.
That's because native speakers don't choose the phrase only because of grammar. We choose it because of the moment. We ask ourselves, does this thought need a gentle introduction? If the answer is yes, to be honest often appears without us even thinking about it.
Let's show everyone what that looks like. Imagine I ask you, how was your weekend?
I'd probably say, it was nice. I stayed home, watched a football match, and caught up on some sleep.
That sounds completely natural. You didn't need to be honest there.
Right, but now let's change the situation. Suppose I'd been planning to go hiking with friends and I'd been talking about it all week. Then you ask me the same question. So, how was your weekend?
To be honest, I canceled the trip at the last minute. I just didn't have the energy, and I felt a little guilty because everyone else was excited.
That feels different already. You can almost hear that you're sharing something slightly personal. You're inviting me to understand how you were feeling instead of simply giving me information.
And notice something else. I didn't stop after saying, to be honest. I explained my reason. That's another habit you'll hear from native speakers. The phrase often opens the door, and then the real conversation begins.
I love that image. It really is like opening a door. You're saying, here's what's really going on.
Let's try another example. You're asking me about a new restaurant that everyone has been talking about.
Sam, did you finally eat at that new Italian place?
To be honest, I expected more. The food wasn't bad, but everyone online made it sound incredible, so I left feeling a little disappointed.
That's such a realistic answer because you're not attacking the restaurant. You're simply sharing an honest opinion while keeping your tone respectful.
And if I had just said it wasn't good, the conversation might have sounded much harsher than I intended.
Here's something listeners should notice. To be honest doesn't magically make rude comments polite. If you say something unkind, it still sounds unkind. The phrase simply helps prepare the listener for an opinion that might be unexpected.
That's an important point. Sometimes people think they can say anything after those 3 words.
Like, to be honest, your presentation was terrible.
Ouch. It still hurts.
It really does. A kinder version might be, to be honest, I think it could be even stronger if you slowed down a little during the introduction. You're still giving honest feedback, but you're also helping the other person improve.
English conversations often balance honesty with kindness. Those 2 things don't have to fight each other.
Here's another situation that happens all the time. Someone invites you somewhere, but you don't really want to go.
That's always a little awkward.
It is. Imagine a friend says, we're all going to a big party tonight, you should come.
What would you say? To be honest, I think I'm going to stay home tonight. It's been a busy week, and I really need a quiet evening.
I like that answer because you're not inventing an excuse. You're simply telling the truth in a friendly way.
And people often appreciate that. Of course, not everyone will agree with your decision, but genuine communication usually creates stronger relationships than pretending to be someone you're not.
Speaking of pretending, have you ever agreed with a movie review just because everyone loved the film?
More than once.
Me too. Then someone asked what I thought, and I smiled for a second because I didn't want to disappoint anyone. Finally, I said, to be honest, I was checking my watch halfway through. Everyone started laughing because they admitted they had been doing the same thing.
That's such a human moment. One honest comment gave everyone permission to stop pretending.
And that's another beautiful use of this phrase. It can create connection. It tells people, I'm going to be real with you.
Before we move on, we'd love to hear from you. Think about your own life for a moment. Have you ever hidden your real opinion because you were worried about what other people might think? And if you had started your sentence with, to be honest, would it have been easier to say what you truly felt? We'd love to know your answer.
Keep that question in your mind while you listen, because we're about to explore some situations where these 3 little words completely change the mood of a conversation, often in ways that learners never expect.
One thing I've noticed over the years is that, to be honest, often appears when people feel a small amount of pressure. Not a huge amount, just enough to make them pause for a second before they speak.
That's such a good observation because the pressure doesn't have to come from another person. Sometimes it's completely inside your own head.
Right. Let me tell you about something that happened to me a few months ago. I met an old friend for lunch. We hadn't seen each other in almost 3 years, so naturally we started talking about work, life, family, all the usual things. Then he smiled and asked, "So, are you happy with your job these days?"
That's one of those questions that sounds simple, but it isn't always easy to answer.
Not at all. For about 2 seconds, I considered giving the easy answer. Yeah, everything's great. It would have ended the conversation quickly. But instead, I looked at him and said, "To be honest, I'm grateful for my job, but I've been wondering if it's time for a new challenge."
I like that because your answer wasn't negative. It wasn't positive either. It was balanced. Life usually isn't just black or white.
That's what happened next that surprised me. Instead of changing the subject, he leaned forward and said, "I've been feeling the same way."
Isn't that interesting? One honest sentence completely changed the conversation.
Suddenly, we weren't talking about the weather anymore. We were talking about goals, fears, uncertainty, and the excitement of starting something new. If I had given the simple answer, we probably would have finished lunch 20 minutes later without learning anything meaningful about each other.
I think we've all experienced moments like that. Someone decides to be just a little more open and the conversation becomes much richer.
Here's another situation that happens all the time at work.
Oh, I think I know where you're going.
Imagine your manager asks for everyone's opinion during a meeting. One by one, people say the new idea sounds wonderful. Nobody wants to be the first person to disagree.
I've been in meetings like that, and you can almost feel everyone waiting for someone else to speak first.
Then one person says, "To be honest, I'm not sure our customers would find this feature useful. Maybe we should test it before we spend months building it."
That's such a realistic example because the speaker isn't trying to be difficult, they're trying to help.
And the reaction is often surprising. Another colleague says, "I was thinking something similar." Then another person joins in. Before long, the whole team is having a productive discussion instead of quietly agreeing with something they don't believe.
That's why honesty can be contagious. One person creates enough space for everyone else to share their thoughts.
Of course, timing matters.
It really does.
If someone is celebrating a huge success, that probably isn't the moment to say, "To be honest, I never believed you could do that."
Please don't say that.
Never.
You'll probably remember that conversation for all the wrong reasons.
Instead, you could say, "To be honest, I'm impressed by how much you've improved." The phrase still sounds natural, but now you're highlighting something encouraging.
That's another lesson people sometimes miss. The phrase isn't connected only to criticism. Native speakers use it when they're pleasantly surprised, too.
I remember watching my little nephew play the piano for the first time in front of our family. He looked nervous before he started, and I honestly expected him to stop halfway through because so many people were watching.
Children can feel so much pressure in those moments.
After he finished, I smiled and said, "To be honest, I didn't expect you to play that confidently. That was wonderful."
That's such a sweet compliment because you're admitting that your expectations changed. It makes the praise feel more sincere.
He smiled from ear to ear.
I bet he did.
Those are the moments I love because language isn't only about grammar or pronunciation. Sometimes it's about giving another person confidence.
Can I tell you about a conversation I had with my sister?
Of course.
She called me one evening after thinking about moving to another city. She had been talking about it for months, but every time she got close to making a decision, she found another reason to wait. Finally, she asked me, "Do you think I'm making a mistake?"
That's a difficult question because she wasn't asking for a simple yes or no.
Not at all. I took a deep breath and said, "To be honest, I think you're more afraid of changing than you are of failing."
Wow.
I know. As soon as the words came out, I wondered if I'd been too direct.
What did she say?
There was a few seconds of silence. Then she laughed a little and said, "You know what? I think you're right."
That must have been a relief.
It was. We talked for another hour, and by the end of the conversation, she wasn't asking me what she should do anymore. She already knew. She just needed someone to help her say it out loud.
That's one of my favorite things about good conversations. Sometimes people don't need advice. They need someone who is willing to be honest with kindness.
There's a balance there, isn't there? If you're honest without kindness, people may stop listening. If you're kind without honesty, the conversation may never become meaningful.
And to be honest, often sits right in the middle of those two ideas.
Before we finish today's conversation, here's something I'd like everyone listening to try. The next time a friend asks your opinion, don't rush to give the safest answer. Pause for a moment. Think about what you truly believe. If it feels natural, begin with, "To be honest," and then explain your thoughts with respect. You might be surprised by how much deeper that conversation becomes.
Because in the end, these three little words aren't special because of their grammar. They're special because they often tell the other person, "I'm trusting you with what I really think." And when someone feels trusted, they usually respond in a much more genuine way.
That's one of the reasons conversations become memorable. People rarely remember every sentence you said, but they often remember how honest, comfortable, and understood they felt while talking with you.
Now that we've looked at how native speakers naturally use "to be honest," let's talk about something that can make a huge difference to the way you sound. Knowing when not to use it is just as important.
I couldn't agree more. Sometimes learners discover a useful expression and they're so excited about it that they start using it everywhere.
I've done that while learning another language. You learn one phrase that sounds natural, and suddenly it's in every conversation.
Then one day you realize people don't speak that way at all.
Here's a simple example. Imagine someone asks, "What's your name?"
Please don't answer, "To be honest, my name is Emma,"
Unless you've forgotten your own name for some reason.
which would be a completely different problem.
Or someone asks, "What time is it?"
To be honest, it's 3 o'clock.
Again, it sounds unusual because you're simply giving a fact. There isn't any emotional hesitation, uncertainty, or personal opinion behind the sentence.
That's something worth remembering. To be honest usually introduces your perspective, not basic information that everyone can see.
Let's compare two short conversations.
I'll ask the question.
Go for it.
Do you like living in a big city?
To be honest, sometimes I miss the peace and quiet of a smaller town.
That sounds completely natural because you're sharing a personal feeling.
Now ask me something different.
Where do you live?
To be honest, I live in Manchester.
It feels strange, doesn't it?
It does, because my address isn't an opinion, I'm simply answering the question.
Here's another mistake that learners sometimes make. They think to be honest always makes them sound more fluent.
But fluency isn't about adding more expressions, it's about choosing the right expression for the right moment.
That's such an important lesson because native speakers are often very economical with language.
They don't add words unless those words have a purpose.
So if your sentence already sounds complete, don't feel that you need to decorate it.
I like that word, decorate. That's what many learners accidentally do.
Instead, think about your intention. Are you revealing a real opinion? Are you admitting something? Are you gently disagreeing? Are you sharing something slightly unexpected?
If the answer is yes, then to be honest might fit beautifully.
If the answer is no, you probably don't need it.
There's another habit I'd love everyone to avoid.
I think I know this one.
Beginning every answer with the same phrase.
It becomes predictable.
Imagine this.
To be honest, I love coffee.
To be honest, I enjoy traveling.
To be honest, I don't watch much television.
After a while, your listener stops hearing the phrase because it's everywhere.
Native speakers naturally change their language. Sometimes they use to be honest. Other times they choose something different.
Let's share a few alternatives that you'll hear all the time.
One of my favorites is honestly.
That's a very common one. Someone asks, "Did you enjoy the concert?"
Honestly, the opening band was my favorite part.
Short, natural, and very conversational.
Another expression is if I'm honest.
I love that one because it sounds thoughtful.
For example, if I'm honest, I don't think I've been giving this project my full attention.
That sounds reflective rather than dramatic.
Then there's I have to admit.
That's perfect when you're accepting something you weren't expecting to say.
I have to admit I was wrong about that restaurant. The food was fantastic.
I use that expression quite a lot.
Me too, especially when someone has recommended a film that I wasn't excited about.
You watch it anyway.
And then you say, I have to admit you were right. I really enjoyed it.
That's a lovely moment because admitting you were wrong often makes conversations feel more genuine.
Another expression you'll hear is personally.
That's useful because it reminds everyone that you're sharing your own opinion rather than stating a universal fact.
Personally, I'd choose the earlier flight.
Notice that it doesn't suggest anyone else is wrong.
It simply says, this is how I see it.
Before we finish, let's give everyone a small challenge.
The next time you're speaking English, don't try to use to be honest 5 times in one conversation.
Try using it once, but choose the moment carefully.
Then, later in the conversation, use a different expression, like honestly, if I'm honest, personally, or I have to admit.
You'll begin to sound much more flexible, and that's something listeners notice without even realizing why.
Real fluency isn't about repeating the same impressive phrase. It's about having several natural options and choosing the one that matches the feeling of the moment.
Before we say goodbye, let's do a quick word tour and review some of the vocabulary you've heard throughout today's conversation. These are words you'll hear often in everyday English, and they're much easier to remember when you connect them to real situations.
Let's start with opinion. An opinion is what you think or believe. If someone asks, what's your opinion of the new cafe, they're asking for your personal view, not a fact.
Next is admit. This means to say something that might be difficult, embarrassing, or surprising. For example, I have to admit I forgot my friend's birthday.
Then we have genuine. If something is genuine, it's real and sincere. A genuine smile isn't forced. A genuine compliment comes from the heart.
Another useful word is expectation. Your expectations are what you think will happen before something actually happens. If a movie is fantastic, you might say, "It was even better than my expectations."
We also use the word vulnerable. People often feel vulnerable when they share personal thoughts or emotions because they don't know how others will respond.
One more important word is reassure. To reassure someone means to help them feel calmer or more confident. A simple sentence like, "Don't worry, you'll do great," can reassure a nervous friend.
So what's the biggest lesson from today? To be honest isn't just a phrase you memorize. It's a way of making a conversation feel more open, more thoughtful, and more human.
And remember, you don't need to force it into every discussion. Listen to native speakers. Notice when they choose to use it and pay attention to the feeling behind the words. Over time, you'll begin choosing those moments naturally.
This week, try one small challenge. During a conversation in English, use "to be honest" just once. Pick a moment when you're sharing a real opinion or admitting something personal. Then notice how the conversation develops from there.
We hope today's episode has helped you understand not only the phrase itself, but also the emotions and intentions behind it. Those little details are often what make someone sound confident and natural in English.
Thanks so much for spending your time with us today. Keep listening, keep speaking, and most importantly, keep enjoying the process of learning English.
We'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.